And we're back with another episode of the Hole in the Soul podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Oldham, here with my co-host, Jose Bolaños. And we are going to dig into something that is, I was going to say, it's a very impactful way to look at life. I would say maybe one of the more important ways to frame life in a worldview that you can use, or a lens that you can use to kind of really evaluate every decision going forward. So, without further ado, let's start talking about purpose, our infinite purpose, and how that plays into our lives. It's a big one, man.
Yeah,
it's a big one.
And
it's a big one.
I always start saying this is a perspective. This is a perspective. It's my perspective. It's just the narrative that gives meaning to my life. And when I say it's a perspective, I like to say that a perspective is like a pair of shoes. You know, when you're going to buy a pair of shoes, as I'm doing right now, that I'm hiking all the volcanoes in Nicaragua. You know, you go to the store, you know what you want them for. You know that you want them for a certain, either for a party or every day or for working out, whatever the shoe's for. You try them on, you walk, and you try to determine, do they work? Do they feel good? Is this going to serve me? Do they, are they going to work for what I wanted? And if they work, you buy them and you take them along. And if it doesn't, you just leave them. So whenever I talk about this perspective, I try to offer a perspective like a pair of shoes, try it on, listen to it. And if it works, adopt, you can even make it your own. This isn't like, I'm not saying this is the way it is. This is the absolute truth. Right. But I think it really helps us make sense of this journey that we're on and what we're trying to achieve here. And I think it speaks into the hole in the soul for sure.
It's like, if you're going to try to fill the hole in your soul, and we all have like holes, it's not just one hole. I think we all have like areas and cracks and things like that. Man, this is a good one to fill things up with, and you look at ways that people try to fill the holes or the voids in their lives, whether it's, faith, which, by the way, for Jose and I are pretty solid ones like that. Probably, that's going to tie into what we're talking about here, infinite purpose. Yeah. So put on your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen. But, other people people try to put in there things with whether it's wealth or material possessions or things like that. This is deep. You're the guy who introduced this concept to me. It's totally transformed how I think about the world, how I go through the world. So let's just get super deep right now around what the hell an infinite purpose is and why the word infinite is used.
Yeah. There's a reason for that. So I start off recognizing that we're on an infinite journey. Let's start there. This is an infinite journey. What do I mean by that? It means that I believe it didn't begin when we were born, and it doesn't end when we die. It extends in both directions. I believe there was something before, and I believe there's something after. So it's an infinite journey that didn't start when you were born, doesn't end when you die. And what you do now has to take that into account. And if you're Christian or Buddhist or many of the religions, they absolutely make that a priority. It's like you're not shooting for success in this life. You're shooting for success in whatever comes after. So let's start there. It's an infinite journey, right?
Yep.
And it's not a journey of a human being. So I believe this isn't the journey of a human being. It's the journey of a soul. That we are a soul. And I've heard this many times. I think Jim Carrey has said it on talk shows. And he's like, I'm not a human having this experience. I'm a divine being having a human experience. I can buy into that. That makes sense to me. That we are soul having a human experience. I am experiencing being this human. I am experiencing being who I am. Um, you know, I and as I work with my clients, sometimes I invite them to see that you're experiencing this human. You're not trying to fix him or her. You're not trying to optimize or fix or get control of. You're experiencing this human. And how does that feel like? Like, what is it like
Mhm.
working with the human that you've been given? What is it like working with Kevin? What is it like working with
What's
Jose?
it like
What is it
Kevining?
like
You used to
working with,
ask me that.
yeah,
Used to be like,
what is
"Hey,
it
what's it
like?
like to Kevin? What's it like to Kevin today?" And I'm like, "Well, I haven't really thought about that."
What does that mean?
And now I ask
Yeah, what is
myself
it like?
that question all the time. You know, I'm like, "Oh, this is what it's like to Kevining." You know, it means that I smile at strangers on the, as I'm passing people, and I walk with upright composure, and I try to be light to others, be the filament, and I try to show up every day and die empty. So yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah,
It should come easy because being Kevin is the easiest thing you can do. It's the most
right,
effortless thing that you can learn to do is being Kevining.
being Kevining, the art of
Yeah,
Kevin. Yeah, that's my.
yeah.
We're writing some books. We haven't really talked about this. We got the first book coming soon. Manuscript's done, and I think there's 3 books. Maybe book 4 will be the art of Kevin,
The art
the
of
Tao
Kevin.
of Kevin. Have you ever read the Tao of Pooh? By the way,
Of course. It's one
isn't
of my
that
favorite books.
isn't that awesome?
Yeah, The Way of Pooh.
Oh,
Tao is the way.
yeah, yeah.
And it
I love
is.
that book.
That's that's exactly what I'm like proposing here. It's the Tao of Kevin. What is the way of Kevin? What
Mhm.
is the way of Jose?
Right.
What is the way of whoever else is listening to this? And how do you
Yep.
embrace that? And because that's the most effortless thing you can do is to do you.
Yep.
So going back, infinite journey doesn't begin when you're born, doesn't end when you die. It's not a human that's on this journey. It's a soul that's experiencing the human experience. Uh, and the goal of this experience, again, from what I've makes sense to me now, is the completion of this soul, the evolution of this soul, the growth of the soul. It's for us to become whole, become complete, evolve, and whatever that may be. But it's the completion. I just used the phrase the completion of the soul. I don't have all the answers. I don't know what's after. I don't know what the completion of the soul is exactly. I just know that that's what I believe is the goal of this journey. It's the completion of the soul. So, how do we achieve it? Now, remember that we go back to the name of the podcast, the whole in the soul. So maybe it's the filling of the soul. It's filling it. That's the goal, is to fill the soul, right? We can call it the filling of the soul, which I think ties really beautifully to the name of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So the completion of the soul uh, is achieved by responding to the soul's longing, the longing of the soul, what the soul is longing to do. Um, so we respond to the longing of the soul, which I consider is the soul's purpose. The soul's purpose. All right. So the
Mm-hmm.
longing of the soul is the soul's purpose. We need to respond to that. We need to learn to tap into what our soul wants and respond to that. And that's your purpose. That's
What
why
if
you
we don't?
exist.
What
My
happens if we
longing,
don't? What happens if we don't?
when we don't fill that hole, that hole is never filled. You will always, doesn't matter, and we'll get to that. Doesn't matter what you achieve, you will never feel complete. You will never feel whole. You'll always be longing for something different. Because I don't believe responding to the longing of the soul is something that's like responding to it is a quest, that figuring out what that is, I don't believe it's that hard. I don't believe it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I got to go find this out and I need to make an effort. No, you just got to stop and ask yourself, what do I really long for? What do I really want? What really wants to happen through me? There's a lot of ways
Right.
to phrase this, but it's, you know, to be a source of presence to others, to be an agent of transformation, to be the filament, to serve others. That's, I just need to respond to that.
One of the things I just thought
Go
about,
ahead.
it's like, and I've heard a lot of people's their declaration, which is part of the VUCA framework, is creating or defining your purpose and then having a noble declaration, right? Is that the fact that almost every single one of these declarations that I've heard are to serve others. Would you say that our infinite purpose at a high level for most people is to serve others or humanity?
My short answer would be a yes.
I would think
Yes,
so too, right?
to serve the whole.
Which is
To serve
yeah.
the whole, not the whole, not the. It serves the whole, the HOLE, but it serves the whole.
WHOLE.
To fill the whole, to fill the whole, you got to serve the whole. You want to fill the whole, serve the whole.
I need a whiteboard.
Like,
we're using different variations of the word.
Different words. But my answer would be yes. Does your desire serve the whole? You know, there's this whole thing about being ego-minded and echo-minded. Like echo serve, like, you know, I follow this guy. What's his name? Odo Sharma. He's an MIT thinker. He gives, you know, he's a lecturer at MIT on leadership and systems thinking and change. And he talks about tapping into source. He talks about discerning what wants to come through life, like what wants to be served, and then committing to that. And does it serve the whole? Is it eco or is it ego serving? So we need to learn. One of them is driven by fear. The other is driven by faith and by fearlessness. And that's a whole nother conversation. But yes, I believe that we are meant to serve the whole of humanity. We are to put in our grain of salt to contribute. I sometimes say we were meant to come to leave something here. Like in our life, we're going to leave something and we need to take something. So what are you going to leave and what are you going to take? I think that's part of what we're here for. So way back, the purpose of the soul is what I call the infinite purpose. The infinite purpose. So again, you know, we're on this infinite journey. The goal of the journey is to complete the soul. You complete the soul by responding to the soul's longing, which is the purpose, which is your purpose, which is your infinite purpose. And then we jump into, okay, what is an infinite purpose? Like, what are the characteristics of an infinite purpose?
Hey, Jose,
into those? Go ahead.
What is an infinite purpose and what are the characteristics of an infinite purpose?
There you go. Yeah.
That was well teed up, wasn't it? Episode 2, we're already playing off each other well. This is good. This is good. For our one listener that we'll have, which is always Dale Oldham, my dad. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I love Dale. I don't know Dale, but I love him already. So, infinite purpose. One is you fulfill it every day. You will never finish fulfilling it. You fulfill it every day. You will never finish fulfilling it. So I always use my infinite purpose as an example, but we can also talk about being the filament or being a creative force for transformation. We can talk about everybody, you know, if you're creative, if you're an artist, if you're whatever it is that you are, a synthesizer, whatever, is that I'm being a source of presence and transformation for others through this talk, maybe through this podcast. But I'm not going to be done doing it with this podcast. I'm going to do it later today. I'm going to do it every day and never finish doing it. This is what I am meant to be doing. This is my purpose. This is why I was born, is to be a source of presence, strength, and transformation for others. Right? Yep. Do it every day, never finish doing it. The second element is that you can do it under any circumstance. So you don't need the economy to be right. You don't need to. I always say the zombie apocalypse test. You got to be able to do it during the zombie apocalypse. If there's a zombie apocalypse, can Jose be a source of presence, strength, and transformation for others? I believe so. Right. I believe that when we're done fighting zombies at night and we're gathered around the fire, I can talk with people and help them find meaning and transformation and depth and everything, even in those circumstances.
Especially in those circumstances, because like if you take out like a really sweet zombie, your infinite purpose when you're around the campfire is definitely going to come to light. So I could totally see that being real. And I'm not, we joke about the zombie apocalypse being a thing. It's the only thing that hasn't happened. So let's, it's realistic now.
Yeah. I just saw this. I saw this documentary on these. There was a rugby team from Uruguay that crashes in the Andes. It's called The Society of the Snow. It's in Spanish. It's a Spanish movie. They were Uruguayan. They were going to Argentina to play rugby. They crashed in the Andes, and they were there for.
These the guys who ate each other. These guys who ate each other. Yeah. So we have a U.S. movie called Alive, English movie called Alive about them, and they had to like eat each other's bodies for nutrition to stay alive. The ones who survived. Yeah, it's a heart-wrenching story.
It is, but this new documentary it goes deeper into the experience, into the raw experience. It's more emotional. It's nominated for an Oscar. It's fantastically done, and you're more immersed in their emotions and what they're going through. And but you see some of them serving others. You see them, fulfilling on something, on a role that goes beyond just getting the food or getting the warmth or going out. Like I can see somebody being a source of light and the filament for others in that circumstance. So the second element is that you can fulfill it under any context, whether it's global pandemic, bad economy, political uprising, like it happened in my country. During the political uprising, I was a source of presence, strength, and transformation for others. So you can always do that. What you can't do is make money off of it all the time. You can't always say, "Oh, my purpose can't mean to just make money," because
monetize your purpose. Yeah, it's not always going to work, right?
You can, but we'll talk about sometimes it won't. Sometimes it won't work. Mm-hmm. So the last element of the infinite purpose is that it integrates everything. It makes your life integral. It just brings everything in your life together to where everything is connected. It's not compartmentalized. Your spirituality, your physical fitness, your whatever hobby you do, whatever you do. I'm climbing volcanoes here right now, and it's all part of my work. It's actually helping me become a better source of presence, strength, and transformation for others. Mm-hmm. Whether I go to the gym, or I go surfing, or I meditate, or I breathe, or I train, everything I do is just integrated to expanding my ability to fulfill on this infinite purpose. It integrates everything in my life.
It's what we train for.
Yeah. I'm training for it. I'm learning. I'm growing. My soul is expanding, and everything I do just makes me better at it, more capable at it, which, in all practical sense, I get to charge better for it also, because I have put so many hours into it and expanding my capacity that it's actually valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? I mean, it may not be a direct monetization, right? But it absolutely helps increase our value to others. Let's just be honest. And in a commercial or commerce context, sometimes that helps. Like my infinite purpose is to be the filament in the lives of people I touch, to be the light. Boy, do you think that people like to do business with somebody who's like positive and a bucket filler, or somebody who's negative and drains other people's buckets? I mean, it's good for business. It's not why I do it. It's just a side benefit. So no, I love that, man. I love it.
Even if they were to hire you in a company to be part of a company.
Yeah.
Like, we want a company inside our company. That purpose, if you can fulfill that purpose in that company, you would be absolutely more valuable than somebody who's just doing something finite.
I wonder how many, because I wasn't walking around without purpose, okay? But I definitely did not have a defined purpose. Like I didn't have like my statement, my declaration, and all those things. And now I look at myself carrying around this tool for the past, 2.5 years, something like that, right? And I'm like, man, what would I do without this tool now? Because this tool, my infinite purpose, which is also a mantra that I say to myself, particularly when I'm being tested, happened today. Somebody wasn't nice to me today. I got a choice. and I killed them with kindness, and it was freaking awesome. I dismantled them with my superpower, but I could have gone the other way, right? And without this tool, I probably would have gone the other way. I probably would have gone kind of old school and been like offended and annoyed and then defended myself and, took the conversation somewhere that wasn't very positive, right? So I guess my little mountain that I feel like is important for me to climb is to help more people realize that they do have an infinite purpose. And then when they do it, their lives can be improved. Like just by having just that understanding and belief and buying into it and having it be part of what you understand about yourself as your soul as a human here today. It's a gift. It's kind of like if you're somebody who's found faith in a higher power, I'm a follower of Christ. Once I got that and understood that in my mid-30s, it was like, oh my gosh, my life is dramatically different now. Like I have a totally different worldview. I've got just a lot totally different, I'd say a different level of thinking, a different level of consciousness and thinking about how I treat others. Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, so the headline here is you can go find your infinite purpose and not, if you're somebody who's not believes in organized religion or higher powers or whatever, hey, that's cool. Like you can still go have this higher purpose that gives you like this kind of infinite purpose, gives you this lens to evaluate, like I said, all of your decisions in life, a way to conduct yourself. It's almost like you have like a code of conduct now, like a little personal code of conduct for yourself.
You have something to orient yourself by.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you do.
So it is important. What you were saying is, 2 years ago, I didn't have this, clear or in the forefront, and I wasn't. Mm-hmm. What I say is you weren't fully committed, maybe not clear, maybe not connected. So I would say first step, not like a step, but you got to connect to your sense of purpose. To your sense of purpose, you need to connect to that, and that can happen in many ways. And I always share 3, but there could be others. And the first one I use is a traumatic event. You have a traumatic event that can push you into a sense of purpose, and your mess is your message, and you start using that. So the other is, I say, just stop doing stupid shit. Like that's my path. My path was I just started sobering up, started doing stupid stuff, substance abuse, and started, making better decisions, and that put me on a path of, oh wow, I want to serve others in doing this also. And so one is a traumatic event. The second is, just stop doing stupid shit, get your life in order, start with your health, start with your spirituality, start with, start doing some self-work, whatever it is, just commit to becoming a better person. And the third is just stop what you're doing. Like, you don't have to throw it aside, but take a moment and stop and reflect and, read a book on purpose, read a book like The Second Mountain by David Brooks. Is that David Brooks? Is that the?
Yeah, it's David Brooks. Yeah.
David Brooks.
Yeah.
Read The
I'm
Second
still
Mountain.
reading it. I love the book. It's a great book.
Read something about, there's Richard Leader's The Power of Purpose. There's Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. It's, start digging into, oh, wait a minute, what's my purpose here? Like, start asking yourself, like, what is this purpose that I'm meant to fulfill? And so you connect. And once you connect, because there's a lot of people, Kevin, that are connected, that get a sense of what their purpose is, but they're not committed. And this is where the noble commitment comes in. You connect, you get a sense of purpose, but you're not committed. And I see a lot of people trying to put a square peg in a round hole, or a round peg in a square hole. It's like they're trying to force whatever it is that they're doing in life to align with that sense of purpose. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So you connect to your purpose and then you commit to it. I am committed to being a source of presence. I am committed to being the filament in other people's lives. You got to really commit to that purpose that you sense your soul's longing for.
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
And
Because I remember, like, when we were figuring out my purpose, we knew we were working together because you were my coach, and I still remember what I told you. You asked, you're like, "Hey, what would you do if like money didn't matter?" And I said, "Well, I have this weird thing that I love to do, and I get it from my mom. And I don't care if I'm at a restaurant or the grocery store or whatever, but I always ask people how they're doing in a different way. I always say,
Mhm.
is everybody treating you well today? I don't say, hey, how's it going? Or how are you doing? Because that's a throwaway. I do a pattern interruption. And I've always wondered, why did I do that? It was so that I could engage in a short conversation with these people and make them smile. Like I always loved that. I'm like, I would just love to go around and make people smile all day. Like that, if I could just do that, that's the way I feel well lived, because I see the reaction in their world and their, them coming to light, and I see what happen does to me. I'm like, hey, this is awesome. Like this is what the world needs. I'm supposed to give it, and I've got it, and it's selfish to keep it. So you get to give it away for free. Right.
Yeah.
But I had a guide through that process, which was you. My question, I guess, would be, because I'm reading Second Mountain right now, and I don't know, it's like a guide to finding your purpose. I don't know, like if people are having a hard time, because this is a big deal. Like
Well,
I'm not going to let you cruise by this and go to the next part. Like, how the hell do people find their purposes if they don't have a guide like you or somebody like that? Reading the
like,
books? Do you feel like that's the best way, or taking
well,
inventory
those
like
are,
I did, or
well, don't go wait for a traumatic event. One is guided, one is doing the work, putting in the time to say, okay, I'm on this journey. I understand that I need to, fulfill on a purpose, and I need to stop and figure this out. I had a breakthrough with a client using the Ikigai model. The
oh yeah,
Ikigai, the
yeah,
Ikigai is a word that stands for, it's a formula to happiness. It's a Japanese concept, and it's about figuring out four things, and it's where four things intersect. And I was talking to this entrepreneur about infinite purpose, and it hadn't landed yet until I shared this. So I'd love to share right now. But your purpose is where what you're talented at, what you're passionate about, what the world needs, and what you're going to live off of, what you're going to make. We can say money, but I mean, Mother Teresa lived off of what she did, but she wasn't going for money. But the world
right.
needs it, and you're able to make a living off of it. So again, it's four things: what you're talented at, what you're passionate about, or what you love, what the world needs, and what you're going to get paid for. So it's the Ikigai model. So I was working with this entrepreneur, and he had down, he was doing what he was talented at. The world needed it, and he was making money off of it, but he was bitter because he didn't feel passion for it or love for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can figure out what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and how to monetize it, you found your sweet spot. You found your Ikigai.
Yeah.
And then you just build off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So stopping and reflecting, I think, would be, and here's something very important. It's the ability to hold the question. It's the ability to hold the question. So ask yourself, what is my purpose? What do I love? What am I talented at? What does the world need? What am I meant to offer? What am I meant to contribute? And you wake up. So don't get frustrated thinking, oh, I don't have the answer to this. I got to figure it out or else my life is over. No, but it's an ability to
right.
hold the question without needing it to be answered in the moment. So it's kind of holding the questions. You're living your day to day, holding the question. And I trust that the answer will reveal itself if you hold the question.
Right.
But if you're not holding the question, it's not going to reveal itself. If you're not asking yourself or taking the time to reflect, it's not going to happen. You're ignoring it. And a lot of people just ignore it.
Yeah.
And we can get into people actually connecting to their purpose, but being scared to commit to it because they don't know how they're going to make a living. They don't know how it's scary to connect to purpose and then think about organizing your entire life around it.
Yeah, I could see there being a scenario where somebody maybe is through this process, they land on it, and then they're like, "Oh wow, some things in my life have to change now."
Yeah.
Right. As a result of this, like a
Yes.
lot of things. And I know the entrepreneur that you were talking about earlier, and that entrepreneur dramatically changed what they were doing with their business. I think a lot.
And
I
they're
think that happens a
flourishing.
lot. Like once you, huh?
They're
Oh yeah, he's
it's
absolutely
flourishing.
killing it. Absolutely killing it. It's amazing, right? It's beautiful. So, and I think that that's one of the things that people have to be okay with, and not okay with, just be aware of. Let's put it that way. Which is that when you go through these exercises, and instead, like I like to say, instead of just aimlessly walking down the sidewalk of life, being in the car and being intentional about where you're going, right? Doesn't mean you're going to get there the quickest way. The quickest way. You're probably going to make a lot of wrong turns. You might get an accident or two. You might find that you're in the wrong car. But when you start this journey, be prepared and be open to the fact that things in your life may change.
Yeah.
For the better. And I'll just say that, for the better.
And
And it may not be this immediate thing either. It's not going to be like, oh, I know what my purpose is. All of a sudden my life is completely changed and all my problems have gone away and blah, blah, blah. No. For me, it's a way of being. We talk about what's this like to be, right? For me, it's a way of being. It's a way of being. My infinite purpose is a way of me being. It's a way of me to go through the world. And yeah, it absolutely did result in some changes in my life.
yes.
But I will tell you, all for the freaking better. Better dad, better husband, better,
Well,
hopefully, leader at work, better community member, because this lens is front and center. And I know that it is, I'm plugged into it and I believe it. And, we haven't really talked about the commitment aspect, but I've committed to it. But be
yeah.
prepared for good things to come. And I believe that everybody is worthy of these good things. If they have an infinite purpose that is, aligned with them, then all these good things should come
I
to
don't know
those
about the
people.
word should, but I don't know. Nobody's entitled to anything here. Sometimes,
That's
but
true.
here's
You got to earn it.
well, here's you know the longing of the soul, responding to that, your purpose, committing to it. You connect to it. You commit, and once you commit, this is where you start bringing it into the world, and this is where the tires hit the pavement. This is where we're going to ground this in what we're all used to, and it's declaring finite projects. It's bringing finite projects into the world. So I connect to my infinite purpose, but then I have to deliver it through finite projects. So we got to walk with 1 foot in the infinite and 1 foot in the finite. If we walk with both feet on any of those two sides, we will wreak havoc. We will suffer. So the finite projects are the business endeavors. It is the projects that you declare, that you bring into, the relationships that you create. The projects, this podcast is a finite project. My coaching practice is a finite project. A book, a business, the factory, what you're doing in the world, project-wise, that is finite. And your purpose is not finite, it is infinite. But sometimes people make their finite projects their purpose, and that creates a hole in the soul. Because the hole in the soul can only be filled with the infinite. So even people who say my family is my purpose, we have to understand that family is finite. You can lose your family. And I've seen people lose their family in different ways, whether it's through divorce or through, the kids leave the house, and then you're an empty nester, and then whatever it might be, your purpose has to go beyond that. And then you declare these finite projects. This is where it gets creative and innovative. But the finite projects, they come and go. And like, I was in a company working with that company. And while I was in that company, I was fulfilling on my purpose. But my relationship with that company now is over. I'm on to something else.
Yeah.
And those of us who have been living for a few decades understand that we've been in companies and projects and relationships and places, and they come and go. The infinite purpose is underlying all that, but the finite projects, there's no guarantee. You can't fulfill them under any circumstances. You can't fulfill them every day and you never finish fulfilling them. You can't control the outcome. Finite projects either succeed for a time and then fail. But see, here's where the infinite mindset comes into play. The infinite mindset is a mindset that takes all this into account, is that when we fail or succeed, they both feed our soul. In other words, failure and success both contribute to the completion of our soul. So they're almost equal. When you have an infinite mindset, failure and success are almost equal. You're not afraid to fail because you know that failure or loss or suffering or whatever happens is contributing to the completion of your soul. So you're not attached to only succeed and not suffer and only things going good. You're not and have an aversion for failure and difficulty and VUCA and whatever life throws at you. You're actually open to both because both offer you an opportunity to continue completing your soul. So whether the finite projects, the business projects, they fail or succeed, it doesn't matter. And if they fail or some circumstance limits you, you just got to come back and ask, how do I continue fulfilling my infinite purpose? How do I do it now?
Yeah.
Give an example, quick example. I was doing live events. I was doing present, in presence event and with Unbreakable. And then COVID hit. I was screwed, man.
Yeah.
That project was e-break.
Done. Yeah.
And so what do I do now? And I started going on Zoom and on the internet and supporting people in their homes while they were, and I pivoted quickly. And I grew, not just my brand, my purpose. Like I met I met people, and it actually served me.
Yeah.
Because I continued doing what my purpose was. Quick thing here.
Yeah.
I know a guy who is the guru of innovation, but wasn't set up properly. And I say this lightly because I don't want to say that I'm set up properly and that this will never happen to me.
No. Yeah.
I would never do that. But dude, the COVID came and all he did was speaking. His success was speaking all over the world. That's what. And COVID hit, and he hasn't been able to take off again. He's kind of done for now. He hasn't been able to reinvent himself or find himself. Or he's struggling. He's struggling a lot because he was so focused only on that finite project.
Yeah. No. I get it. I'm living it. So if we wanted to give some real world applications, like if somebody's listening and they're like, man, this all makes sense. I understand what these guys are saying. It doesn't sound completely Looney Tunes. Like I can buy into it. Where do they start? Like, does your free guide on your website have any like pointers on this? I know it talks about like concepts or like VUCA and things like that.
Yep.
You had 5 different things in there. I'm guessing tips on how to discover your purpose and whatnot's probably not in there.
Probably not. But where do you start? How do you put this together? Start asking yourself. Like write the question down. Start journaling. Start reading a book.
Do you talk to other people? Like, do you talk to people that you love and be like, hey, what do you think? I mean, I'm afraid like if you go down that path, you start getting a little groupthink. I don't know.
Okay, so I had a guide. You had a guide. I had a guide. I had a mentor.
Yep.
I had a mentor who, I did a retreat. I did a 3-day retreat on finding your mission and came out with a somewhat similar statement to what it is today. Except
did you really?
It was to maximize people's potential and live the best life possible, something like that. Now it's to be a source of presence, strength, and transformation. The one is, where do you start? Reading a book on purpose. We're talking about The Second Mountain. We're talking about Richard Leader's The Power of Purpose, and we're talking about Man's Search for Meaning. If you want to know where to start reading those books.
Yeah. And
Journal.
links are in the show notes. Links are in the show notes, ladies
Are
and
they?
gentlemen.
We have links on the
already
show
have that.
notes?
We already have
That's-
the links, that's for sure.
that's
And the show notes
witchcraft.
will be created by our producers. Oh no, it's not witchcraft. It's called good processes, Jose.
They call it
That's
witchcraft.
why you got a good partner. You've got a good partner here who takes care of a lot of this
I'm the
stuff.
philosopher. You're the one who's grounding all this in links on the bottom to go to the resource. Huh?
I mean, is this a bad time to interrupt the show and ask for payment? Which the only payment that we ask for, because it's free, is just for you to hit the subscribe button. That's it. That's the only payment. Okay, back to the show. See that? I'm going to insert that every single time. I'm just going to say, we'd love for you to hit subscribe, and that's the only ask. And then we're going to get back to the show.
We could offer conversations to people also at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
reach out, book a conversation with us. And
It's not a bad idea.
no, like just reach out and book a conversation. We're still very accessible.
And we're still very accessible until our business prospers to the point where we're going to be like Tony Robbins, right? And we're going to have a line of people around us that you can't even get to us. So inaccessible.
We'll have better links. We'll have better links. Yeah, links and like you can go through this funnel.
Hey, don't start talking business. I knew you were going to start talking about business stuff. The joke here is that Jose is not really into the business side, and that's okay. I mean, that's part of why we make good partners. I do like that side of it. For me, that is one of my zones of genius, and I find it to be play. So, man, this is awesome. This is awesome. And I love the fact that, episode 2 of our show, right? Like, we're going to keep bringing topics that are going to make your head, in some cases, go, well, I hadn't really thought about that. Good. Glad that we were able to at least open your eyes. In some cases, you're going to be like, man, these guys are on another planet. I don't know what they're talking about. And my counsel to you, if you're in that second camp, is listen to the next episode and listen to the next episode, because all of these things are like building blocks that start layering into each other, right? And once you look up and you understand what these building blocks' purposes are, you can then apply them to your life. And our hope is live the life that you deserve. And I do believe that everybody that is a good intention and whatnot deserves whatever it is in life that they desire. You have to work for it, right? You've got to work for it. But hang out with us, go on this journey with us. What were you going to say, my man?
Well, it's really hard for all those that are more business minded, more focused on making the finite projects work. Like when you're focused, hyper focused on the finite, you're probably.
This can sound like Pluto. This can sound like, what are these dudes talking about?
But if you're our age, if you're in your 40s, going into your 50s, and still hyper focused on the finite projects, you're probably already asking yourself, what the hell am I doing this for? Is it like I'm kind of tired? Like, this is kind of aimless. Like you're probably like, do I want to keep on doing this? You might be wanting to throw in the towel already. Like, you need some depth and some meaning. You can continue doing what you're doing with meaning and connecting it to this. It just becomes easier. Not easy. I hate the word easy. Nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. But
everything's always way harder than you think it's going to be.
Yeah. But it's more meaningful.
I like that. More meaningful. I like that.
Yeah, just meaning to it. And
more meaningful, not easier.
No, more meaningful. It's more meaningful, and you avoid becoming cynical and bitter and just asking, like, just focused on business. Should I do a little recap quickly?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, put a ribbon on this. Put a ribbon on it. Quick recap.
So we're an infinite journey. Didn't start when we were born. Doesn't end when we die. It's a journey of a soul, not of a human. The soul's having a human experience. The goal is the completeness of our soul. How do we complete the soul? How do we fill that hole in the soul? By responding to the soul's longing, which is your purpose. probably your divine responsibility. I mean, you're going to go out there and say it's probably seated there by God Himself, like your soul's longing. You respond, which is your infinite purpose, something that you're going to do every day, never finish doing. You're going to be able to do it under any context and circumstance. It's going to give meaning to your life. It's going to integrate everything. You need to connect to that. You commit to that. You bring that into your life and organize your life around that. And then you align your finite projects with that. You declare finite projects that are aligned, that have soul at the core. The finite projects will have soul at the core. And, even Jesse Itzler has said, number one, his word last year was soul. It's got to have soul. It's gotta have, this is exactly what we're talking about. It's got to have soul.
It is exactly.
At the core.
He was so emphatic about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he talks about being a billionaire, a spiritual billionaire. You're going to become a spiritual billionaire. It's the same thing, except that Jesse Itzler is, expressing it in a completely different language. This is the language that I've adopted. And your finite projects, you align them with the soul, and you just continuously find new ways to bring it into the world. And when old ways expire, you bring up new ways. And there it is.
That's right. There it is.
There it is.
Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap. Infinite Purpose. We appreciate you, Jose. I always love our conversations. As we mentioned earlier, if you feel inclined, or even if you don't feel inclined, smash the subscribe button. Give us a review. Give us some feedback. Because guess what? Like we talked about, we're committed to longevity of the show, as long as it makes sense for you, the listener, and for us, the creators. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, my co-host, Jose Bolaños. We hope that you have a phenomenal week and be well.